Hello everyone, my name is Cynthia Bampton and I'm the co-founder of the Awaken Life Project, and I'm starting a new podcast, and this podcast is basically going to be focused on how to live an awakened life in today's society. So it's called Waking Up to Life with Cynthia. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about things that are very relevant to your life today, whether it be relationships, love, aging, coronavirus, whatever's happening here and now in the world and in your life. I'd like to be able to transmit to you another perspective, a new perspective on how you can look at things. And hopefully you'll be able to not only deal with the complexities of life today, but you'll also be able to bring more love, more light, more understanding, more empathy into this world through your own understanding and through your own freedom. So I hope you decide to join me. I look forward to it. Hello everyone. Okay, today I want to talk about overwhelm. I don't know if you're feeling overwhelmed right now, but I'm sure everybody can relate to that experience of overwhelm, or extreme overwhelm, or constant overwhelm. So it's very interesting what overwhelm is. And also overwhelm can manifest in different ways. Overwhelm can manifest in stress, anxiety, depression, all of the kind of diseases that are common in society today, and all the so-called diseases that we're trying to medicate. So I want to give you a different view on overwhelm, so maybe it'll give you a different view on if you're experiencing anxiety or fear, stress, or depression, or anything else. So overwhelm is simply the idea that you only have a capacity to take so much. Okay, so let me say that again. Overwhelm comes from the idea that you only have a certain capacity to take so much. So if you think you're a glass of water, you think you're the glass, and you pour water into the glass, and it fills up the glass. And it's okay, because it's still just enough water to fill up the glass. But then what happens is more water comes, and then the glass starts overflowing. And then anxiety starts, because it's like it's too much. It's overflowing. It's out of control. Something is out of control. You're feeling very insecure because of that out of control feeling, but also because something is different or more than you are used to. So if you think you're a glass and you can only take so much, you are going to feel overwhelmed probably a lot of the time in your life. Maybe some people more than others. It depends on how big your glass is. So whatever idea you have about yourself and whatever idea you think you can handle is how big your glass is. So some people's idea of themselves are very small. So they have like a little tiny teacup. Some people have a regular sized glass. Some people have a big beer mug. And some people decide that they're not the glass and they have unlimited capacity. So I want you to recognize when you feel overwhelmed, it's coming from this idea of how much you can actually take. And that's an idea that's based on conditioning. It's based on your history. It's based on thought that's arising and ideas that you have about yourself. It's not based on anything that's true. And in a certain way, it's actually a very arrogant position to take. Now, the reason why it's an arrogant position to take, because you are taking the position that you already know what you can do and what you can't do. So if you open up to new possibilities, that maybe I'm not the thoughts that I think, I'm not the feelings that I have, and I'm not the ideas that I believe. And you start recognizing I am that which is prior to all these thoughts, all these feelings, all these beliefs. And you get in touch with, oh my gosh, maybe I'm the mystery of life. Maybe I'm consciousness itself. It's not what I normally think of myself to be, but maybe that's who I am. You see, so it's arrogant to impose a limitation on consciousness, on spirit, or on the mystery of life itself. Because you're basically saying, I already know who I am, I already know how much I can take, and that's it. And it's a big, no to anything more than that idea. And so it's a big no to the truth of life itself, and consciousness, and the mystery of who you actually are. So if you're completely convinced that you're this small, limited self, you're going to find yourself in a state of overwhelm a lot of the time, because life is out of control. Life is out of your control. You know, the coronavirus is showing us that, but we have examples of this every day. You know, very, very simple examples where you're pushed beyond what you call your comfort zone. And that can happen when there's an accident that happens. That can happen when somebody asks you to do something, you don't know how to do it. It can happen when your relationship isn't going the way you want and you don't know what to do about it. It can happen in, thousands of different ways. But it all comes back to, what's your relationship to life? What's your relationship to who you believe yourself to be? Do you actually intuit that you are not kind of this small, limited, maybe unhappy, you could say weak character? Are you something more than that? And I can tell you right now, if you're listening to this podcast, you intuit that you're something more than that, or you maybe have had a very spontaneous experience where all of a sudden the doors of perception opened and everything you thought yourself to be completely disappeared. And that can happen, you know, when you're in the garden. It can happen when you're in nature. It can happen when you're on a bus. It can happen at any time where the doors of perception open and you see something completely different. And you recognize that who you thought you were disappeared for just a brief second, or maybe longer. And all of a sudden the whole world became shiny, or everything disappeared and there was just nothing there. But in that nothingness there was complete ease and relaxation. And then you might have recognized, if you had this experience of deep ease and relaxation when the doors of reality opened, that there was a moment that you started to become afraid and you contracted back again. So it's that moment that you started to go with the habit of thinking you already know who you are. And that which you were in touch with, which was completely beyond anything you could imagine yourself to be, became completely overwhelming. And you shut down and you went back into your glass. But the thing is if you have had some kind of experience like that, you see, you've already seen a new possibility. And I think for a lot of people these days, a lot of people have seen new possibilities. A lot of people have recognized, wow, there's more to life than what I think. A lot of people recognize, but there's a lot of times that individuals are more comfortable in their contracted state of I already know. And they're addicted to the agitation of overwhelm. Even though you hate it, even though you feel awful, it's what you know. And so it's a weird way of where you feel comfortable, but it's only you It's only the ideas of you who you think you are that feels comfortable. It's really only your egoic patterns that are deeply at ease right at that point, because you believe that you are less than who you are. So if you believe that you are the separate self and you are holding back the mystery of life itself through your own unconscious ignorance or through your conscious resistance and your unwillingness to open up to something new, then you also have to recognize that you are making that choice. You are choosing to be overwhelmed. You are choosing to suffer. You are choosing to feel unhappy. Nobody is doing that to you, because at any moment you can let go of the idea that you're in control. You can just simply leave space for that which you don't know. You can recognize that the only reason you're overwhelmed and unhappy is because you have an idea that you're imposing on yourself of what's possible. So this is really good news. Really, really good news. So just allow yourself to say, wow, is that really true? That when I become overwhelmed, it's because I have an idea of how much I can take, and I believe that idea, so then I create a situation where I'm fearful, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm frustrated. Am I doing that to myself through my own beliefs that I can only take so much? Is that true? So first you have to look and say, is that thought actually something you believe? And don't look at what you think right now, because your mind might come up and say, oh no, of course not, I don't believe that. But look at your actions, look at your experience of overwhelm, because you have to look at how you react to actually know what you believe. Okay? So if you find yourself overwhelmed, is it because you have an idea that you can't take it? And if you're honest with yourself, I have no doubt about this, you will say yes. So that's quite a statement I just made, but I stand behind it. But you have to find out for yourself. But all I'm trying to tell you is if you let in the truth of what I'm saying, you can recognize that you are causing your own suffering, you're causing your own anxiety, you might be causing your own depression. And the good news about that, if you actually want to live in the state of surprise and freedom and happiness, what's really good news about this is if you recognize that suffering is in your own hands, that means you can do something different. And you don't even have to do that much, because you don't have to create freedom. You don't have to create happiness. You don't have to create joy. It's your natural state. All you have to do is shift your attention and stop insisting that you are unhappy and you can't, and you're a victim to your mind, to your circumstance, to other people. But this is a big order here that I'm saying, so, and it's very, very simple. But most people are very addicted to the ideas they have about themselves. And like I was saying at the beginning, it's what you actually feel somewhat comfortable with. You have to recognize that. So you're going to change a pattern and you're going to go from the known to the unknown. And so that is going to cause, most likely, some challenging moments that are going to take some effort. So when you find yourself contracted and overwhelmed, take that moment to take a deep breath and to say, I am that which is aware of this overwhelm that's happening right now. And then look and say, is this overwhelm happening because I have an idea that I can only take so much? And then just ask yourself, who am I really? Am I the thoughts that are arising? A thought that I actually don't even know what a thought is? Am I that? Am I the feeling of overwhelm, or am I that which is aware? And then allow yourself to recognize the truth. It's not what you think. It's not a subjective answer. If you're aware of the overwhelm, you are not the overwhelm. You are not only that. You are experiencing a feeling of overwhelm. The body is experiencing that, but you are that which is aware. You see? So just that simple shift of attention will give you what you need to start making different choices on where you're going to put your attention. So anytime you feel contracted, overwhelmed, anxious, fearful, just take a moment and just say, okay, let's just take a breath. I recognize that I am overwhelmed, I am anxious, I am fearful. That's what my experience is. But is the truth that I am overwhelmed, anxious, and fearful? Or is the truth I am that which is aware of the arising of anxiety and fear and overwhelm? You see, this is not rocket science, but because we're so addicted to habitually identifying with thought and feeling, it seems very, very difficult. So in a certain way, it's super simple, but because of that addiction, it's going to take effort. So if you're interested in liberating yourself from your ideas and beliefs, then you'll make that effort. And there's going to be times, it's not going to be, like 100% you're going to be like behind this. You're going to indulge in victimization. You're going to indulge in overwhelm. But your capacity to continue the indulgence will get less and less when you start seeing through the illusion of the separate self. You see, so this is a process that we're all in, and we're all in it together, and everybody has to do the same thing. You're not a special case. You don't have a bigger problem than anybody else. You just have to recognize whatever your situation is what your situation is. And that's what you need to deal with. Not to be victimized by it, but to deal with it. And to deal with it is not to try to fix it. It's not to try to change it. It's to sit and say, okay, I accept this is actually what is happening. It doesn't mean you're accepting that something can't change, but you have to accept that this is the situation. I mean, if you had a broken leg and you're trying to deny you have a broken leg and you're out there trying to walk, you can deny you have a broken leg, but it doesn't mean that your leg is not broken. And if you're trying to walk on a broken leg, you're causing yourself suffering, and you're choosing to do that because you're denying that it's broken. So it's the same thing. It's a simple example. So just recognize that you're addicted to believing that you are what you think and you are what you feel. Just recognize that. And then recognize I am that which is aware. But if you recognize I am that which is aware, then you stop putting your attention on the untruth or the illusion that I am what I think and what I feel. And I tell you, if you do this, you're going to have more and more space in your being. Your container is going to be bigger and bigger. So going back to where this podcast started, you see, you may be a teacup right now, but you might be a beer mug tomorrow. And then you might decide that you're not any kind of container. You're beyond that. So nobody is stuck. Nobody is limited. It's all in your hands right here, right now. Have the humility to know it's not going to change in 5 seconds. Have the humility to know that you might have to make some effort. Also have the humility to kind of have fun with this. Because it's only an idea, again, so many ideas, it's only an idea, again, that you should be able to do this perfectly. you should be able to do this perfectly. It's not about you doing it. It's about you letting go of the idea that you're doing it. And at the same time, you recognize, just through cognition, you recognize, I am that which is aware. And then you recognize, I didn't actually create this awareness. I just recognize the truth of it. So little by little, everybody. But the beauty is that every moment that you take your attention off your limited ideas, in that moment, you will experience freedom. That space will be there. It's here, it's now, it's always. So you don't have to wait to be perfectly doing this every second. Every time you choose to shift your attention into rest as that which is aware, you will experience who you truly are in that space. And then in the next second, you might shift your attention again out of habit. And that's what we have to do. Shift, shift, shift. Do the practice, but make it fun. Take it seriously, but don't make it heavy. Because every time you make it heavy, you're just buying into the idea that you should be doing it better, that you're not doing it right, and you're not doing it fast enough. It's not about that. You know, freedom and liberation of the human spirit is not on an agenda that comes from the separate self. So all we have to do is just make ourselves available. All right. So I'm going to leave you with that. Sitting here in the sun. Going to go have my breakfast now. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope what I've said has helped you, and then let's see where we go on the next podcast. So remember, wake up, live an awakened life, and share this podcast with your friends. All right, bye.